Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Reasonably Effective Podcast. I'm Ten Types, as I was joined by Uncommon Fossil.
Yep, glad to be here. And this is our third try trying to get this thing started. So hopefully, third time is the charm.
Yes, we've had some technical difficulties, unfortunately, so hopefully it's all good here. But what is pretty exciting is the new set, Pitch Black. I've certainly had a lot of
hmm
fun with it, but what are your thoughts on it so far?
It's a good set. I think there are a lot of decks that first off we've been trying, but also I think both of us we've been seeing a lot of these new decks out there. I think when we come down to it, they're not the top decks. None of these, I think, are challenging Dragapult for the best deck around. But there's a number of decks that are viable, which is a lot of fun. So I think it has made, at least in live, where things are, semi-serious, I will say. Of fun. I don't know that actually IRL tournament play will be much different, but for kind of semi-casual play, it is really good.
Yeah, it's a really cool set here, with again a bunch of new decks, and we'd actually love to hear your thoughts on the decks as well. Obviously, like on YouTube in the comment section, if there are decks that we don't talk about that you've been playing, or decks that we have been talking about that you have been playing, because as we'll kind of dive into, there's a lot of different things to talk about with these decks. There's just so much depth, which is really cool. And I suppose while you're down there, make sure you subscribe as well. But this set is definitely pretty cool. And we'll talk about, I guess, the most typed up deck from the set, which is Hide and Sneak. I'll quickly go over it if you're not familiar. So Hide and Seek is an ability that is on four Pokemon, Banette, Shuppet, Sinistcha, and Poltergeist, and it says that the Pokemon with the ability are immune to damage from your or they're immune to effects of your opponent's attacks and also any effects from your opponent's abilities. So this is useful against stuff like Dragapult EX and like Munkidori and stuff like that. It's not a crazy good ability, but it is required for the attack of the main Pokemon Delmise, which says for one Psychic you do 30, but if you have four more Pokemon you discard with Hide and Sneak, you do 140 more. So 170 for one Psychic, super good there on a basic. Then there's the Sinistcha. This one has the ability Hide and Sneak, and it has the attack Monster Spin. For one colorless, if you have six store Pokemon and you just go with Hide and Sneak, you put 4 damage cards on each opponent's Pokemon. There is a Spiritomb that synergizes with it, but it's like pretty clunky to use. And then there is also the Banette here with the attack Puppet Pull for one Psychic. It does 80. You search deck for any card and put it into your hand. And again, that's one Psychic on a stage one. So overall, what are your thoughts on this deck so far?
I mean, look, first, it's a fun deck. The exact power level I think might be slightly disappointing, but it's not too difficult to set up. Certainly, you need only four Pokemon in the discard with hide and sneak ability, so that's not asking for too much. There is a question of, and also look, if you could do 170 for one energy on a basic, that's crazy good. At 140, it's relatively tanky too for a single prize basic, so that's all really good. You're two-shotting, all the rule box Pokemon out there. I think so. I don't know. I guess there's one or two that you can't, but
Yeah, well, I do want to
um,
say, you do one-shot Meowth as well. I have not seen that happen in a game. I don't really play much Meowth, and I haven't been playing that much Hide and Sneak, but it is definitely something
right.
worth noting. Um, and against this deck, you probably want to avoid playing Meowth.
Right, and in the list that we have here plays Lily's Clefairy, so you can one shot Dragapult with the weakness and dragon type decks too. But 170 for one's pretty good. The questions with a single prize deck like this are can you stream attacks because you need to attack every turn. I think it's pretty doable with this, I will say. And then the other thing is you want to go second and then your first turn attack for 170. You want to take a prize or soften up a rule box Pokemon so that you finish it off on your second turn. And then so can you pull that off? And it's a little questionable there. The build we have here uses the Dunsparce engine, which I think works well. That's there's engines, different engines, the way things can go, but it's getting the Delmise set up is reasonably okay. Certainly Prism Tower helps the deck a lot. So with that to discard two each turn. You're playing Secret Box as your ace spec. I think this is a list I got from you, which makes a lot of sense too.
Oh, I don't
So
think
it
this
works.
is Milo. What you said, Secret Box, the Ace Spec?
Yeah.
Okay, the list I have doesn't play Secret Box as the Ace Spec. That is
Okay.
interesting. I will say, I've seen a lot playing Legacy Energy. I don't know how
Okay.
good it is. Obviously, it's there for the prize, which is nice. But in terms of, being an energy of every type, it does essentially nothing there. I'm just a psychic energy there, but there aren't any other types in the deck. And I do want to talk about the specifics of the list at some point, once we get into it. But yeah, it looks like we don't have the same list.
Okay. And I will say the bayonet, which I'll attack with that occasion, which does 80, which is enough to knock out like, uh,
Yeah,
like
basic evolving.
the basic for the pre-evolutions, and it gets you any card you want to hand. So it's a nice option as well. You can't do that your first turn, obviously, because you can't evolve into it. But occasionally attack with Bayonet, mainly attack with Delmise, and it flows pretty well. Do the damage numbers add up to winning? It's probably on the borderline, I think, in that sense. But what do you want to talk about with the deck?
Yeah. Oh, so one thing actually, I forgot about this, but then when you said it flows smoothly, I remembered this stack is because it's a single price deck, kind of like rogue-ish. It's kind of
Y-
built like a rogue, silly single price deck, but it's kind
Yeah,
of boring in my opinion. Like once you get set up, you just Delmise every turn. Delmise is pretty easy to get
right.
going because like Bayonet, as you were saying, it helps you keep things flowing, but it's not that hard to keep things going without it, right? Like at the point at which you have Bayonet, which is obviously turn two there, I feel like you can attack with Bayonet every turn. I mean, sorry, Delmise every turn,
Yeah.
and long story short, I don't think Bayonet's very good in the deck. Which we'll get to in a second because that's tied to a bunch of different things. But Delmise is like pretty solid. But again, the game plan is super simple from then on. Does your list run Bloodmoor Saloon at EX? I know some do.
The list I have here does not, but yes, I have seen it, which, can hit for a little more damage and can be tankier so it can have certainly it has a role in some of these single price decks if that's what you want to do.
Yeah, when you say it's tanky, it is tanky, but also it can attack back to back and feel like it'd get stuck. So
Mhm.
really, you want to end the game with it, but it could do that,
Yeah.
I suppose. And then there is the Sinistcha doing 40 to each your opponent's Pokemon through the use of damage counters, which I actually like that there. Some because it's able to, if you're against these basic EXs, which you see pretty commonly, you look at Latias EX,
Yeah.
the Ogre Pawns, Pheasantipity, things like that. Those cards are, you're going to see a few in a deck, and then you're coming up short on a bunch of them. So then if you attack once with Sinistcha and then Delmise eat like three of them, then that's four attacks, which I think is all right. I don't know, maybe that's more of a theory thing. I haven't actually ended up doing that much, but I mean, in live, there are definitely games where people like quit early. But also you are discarding them, so it is kind of hard to like plan your game plan around them when you're also planning on getting rid of them. But regardless, I do think that I like the Sinistcha line more than the Bayonet line. It is, I'd say power level wise, they're pretty similar, but Bayonet
Yeah.
often feels like Delmise, but it has less HP and does less damage. Yes, it search for any card, which is like cool, but usually you don't need that because the deck's pretty straightforward once it gets set up. And then the big question, you actually asked me this before when we were recording before with our first take, and then our internet cut out. And you asked how often do you attack turn one? So I'll ask you that. Obviously going second.
Yeah, you want to go second. It's four cards in the discard pile. You got this list, and I'm pretty sure pretty much all of them play four Ultra Balls. It plays Prism Tower within the
Yeah.
deck.
How many?
This has three Prism
Okay.
Tower. My list, which is probably enough. Obviously, it makes the turn one big attack a little less, right? A fourth one helps pull that off a little more consistently. And then Secret Box helps with that as well. This list does not play Petrol, but I guess I don't know. I don't know if you'd want that or not. Just to get Secret Box turn one. I don't know. But I honestly, but the answer is it's kind of like 50-50 to me whether I could pull it off.
Yeah.
Now I didn't play the deck. We did a lot of decks which we played to prepare for this video, which meant not playing any of these lists as many times as I certainly was optimal, and being quick with getting either you kind of finding these lists or modifying. So the lists are not, I don't think for either of us optimized for our gameplay, and we certainly don't know all the ins and outs, but it is running about 50-50, maybe slightly above in terms of getting the big attack turn one. And when I miss that, unless there's a Bidoost in the active, it feels pretty bad.
Yeah, yeah. I'd honestly say because I've played against hide and seek. Have you played against a lot of hide and seek or not really?
Um, no, not a lot. I honestly, I'm looking. I was trying to record things as we were prepping for this, and I don't have hide and sneak written down. So maybe I played it once. That's the most, and I might not have seen it at all.
Okay, yeah. So I've actually, I mean, I played a lot as soon as the set came out. I think you didn't play as much immediately, so I saw a bunch of hide and sneak, and people were like struggling to get their tournament attack off there. When I've been doing it,
Yeah.
I found. Okay, so can I ask what your supporter lineup's looking like? I guess I don't care about the boss, but like the draw supporters.
Yeah, I will just say when the set first dropped, I was doing the build and battle, so I was
Yeah,
seeing hide and sneak, but that's a different, that's a different, that's a obviously
yeah.
not as optimized a deck. But so supporters, three bosses order, three Gwyn, one Lana's aid, and four Lily's determination.
Okay, yeah. So that's kind of what I was thinking. So my list it runs. So I run three lilies. What do you say? Yours ran four, right?
Yeah, four Lilies. Yeah.
Obviously a very good card. But obviously also it doesn't discard, right? So then if you play
No.
lilies turn one, which is kind of the thing you want to do, then you need to what like Ultra Ball and Prism Tower. I do run four Prism Tower, I will say, to help with the turn one
Hmm.
attack there.
Yeah.
You also mentioned Petrol. I mean, Petrol could be interesting there for the turn one secret box. Honestly, could probably help you get there. Um, we'll definitely talk about Petrol a bit later. There's probably with the next deck we'll talk about. We'll talk about Petrol a bunch, but ultimately, Gwen is nice. How many hide
Yeah.
and sneak Pokemon are you running as well, or with the ability?
Let's one, two, three, four, three, six, 10
Okay,
in
so I'm
total.
running. Wait, sorry. I can ask what the lines are as well.
Yeah, it's a 2/2 Sinestria and a 3/3 Bayonet.
Okay, so I run 12. I run a 4/4 Sinistcha and then four
Wow.
Bayonets. Um, which so again I kind of talked about the BNet why I don't love it. I could definitely see one um Shuppet
One
there.
Shuppet.
Yeah. But regardless, so I play a few more to help with the turn one attack. Obviously, as the game goes on, well, it runs more Sinistchas as well to attack with. That's more of the game plan. So in that case, you also want some more, but you don't necessarily need like 12. But I think it helps turn one. And then with I run for Gwen. Gwen's a supporter I played with some, mostly in hide and sneak. I messed with it in one other deck as well. When's new supporter that discards up to two non-rule box Pokemon from your hand, and then you draw three for each card discarded in this way. So it actually
Yeah.
does draw you quite a lot of cards, and that's good. But you do need a bunch of Pokemon. I run to Dunsparce. Actually, at one point I cut it and I switched to like Dracloak, which wasn't super good. Also, then I switched back to a 2/2 to Dunsparce, and then I was like, okay, we'll see how this goes. And I prized both my Dunsparce, so that was
Okay.
exciting. But regardless, you have Gwen, and you want a bunch of Pokemon for that, and I run four. It's like quite good. I mean, getting a turn one Gwen is really good for getting a turn
Yeah.
one attack. If you do that, you probably get it. And then I run four of, guess what supporter?
Your favorite supporter, Explorer's Guidance.
Yeah, Iron 4 Explorer's Guidance. It's okay in the deck. It's not like crazy good. If you're not familiar with it, it's a supporter. Look at the top six cards of your deck, put two into your hand, discard the others. Obviously, it's another supporter that kind of discards stuff. And then
Yep.
hopefully you can get, like hit a few of them. I mean, theoretically, you get four and just like discard them and then get the other two cards or whatever. But hopefully you get like an Ultra Ball or something. It's not too hard to get it with Explorer's Guidance either. I think with either Explorer's Guidance or Gwen, you're pretty likely to get the turn one attack there. Also, again, I don't play any Shuppets, so the basics I run the one Liz Clefairy EX, but then I run two Dunsparce with free retreat. I run the
Okay.
four Delmise, and I run the four Poltergeist, which also has free retreat, which helps the turn one attack. So I think if you're going for the turn one attack, you want to build the deck something like that, and that's going to
Yeah.
help a lot. And I mean, the best part of the deck is the turn one going second big attack and just like attacking consistently and quickly. And you just really need to lean into that. If you're not leaning into that, then the deck's just not that good. So I think people are trying to like play it with I don't know less leaning into that, more
Yeah.
um, I don't know just like normal supporter lineups, and I think you really need to lean into it.
Yeah, yeah. In fact, as I'm looking at the list, I have I think it is making some of those mistakes. You'll yell at it. I think I need to adjust it. It's playing two Lilies Clefairy, which I don't think I need. Obviously, you don't want to start it because
Yeah.
it does not feel good. I play three of the Dunsparces, and it is the 70 HP though, so
Yeah.
the one retreat cost, which has its advantages, obviously with Dragapult, but then you can't get out of the active, right?
Mhm.
If you have to start it. and then also plays a Shaman, which you could argue, and then it also plays a Moltres for one fire, does 110 to an active EX, which probably it shouldn't have. Certainly, it hurts the turn one attack because you're only attacking for 20 your turn one. Well, they could have an EX, but you're not going to probably knock it out. So the Moltres at the start of the game probably is not what you want. So, probably need to make some adjustments to maximize the Delmise first turn attack on going
Yeah.
second.
So sorry, quick question about the list. So you said it doesn't run legacy energy. So what's the how many fire energies does it run?
It plays none.
Wait, sorry,
As
Moltres?
you, yeah, it plays Prism Energy though, two
Oh,
prisms.
okay. Oh, two. Okay.
So yes, it does play for the telepathic psychic, which I assume you're playing that in your deck as well.
I play
In your list?
three. Well, it's not. I
Okay.
don't run any of the Shuppet.
Oh, you don't have the
So
Shuppet, so yeah. So all you just have is the Delmises. So,
yeah, because
um,
telepathic isn't actually that good. Like Shuppet, even if it's okay, it's not like that good. And telepathic is like I don't know. I mean, you could get two Delmise, which is like getting Delmise is good. It's your main attacker. Getting Shuppets is mediocre. Oh, okay, sorry. Getting Shuppets is good to get them into the discard, but you don't get them into
yeah,
the discard. I mean, I suppose you could wait for them to get knocked out and they go into the discard. I've actually had games like that, but usually then you're behind. I have lost to my opponents when they like attack with Bayonet and then when I knock out the Bayonet, then they get their Delmise powered up. But usually those are
right.
situations where I'm not playing a very good deck, so. I don't know. I feel like you need to go fast and really lean into it. This is something that I've heard about, and something that's realistically a good way to build decks is to build it so it sets up first, and then you can mess with like matchup stuff, like with the Dunsparce. The lower HP, lower retreat cost Dunsparce is
Yeah.
scary against Dragapult, which is a specific matchup, but if your deck doesn't set up, it doesn't really matter, right? So
Yeah, I mean, I get that. I mean, yeah, playing some of the telepathic psychic is good. Probably more of the basic psychic energies would be better because I assume for you the only like for this deck here, it has one line as eight. I see you have something like that. So the only
uh,
way to
yeah, I
recover
have two
energies.
stretchers. I could include Alana's Aid, but yeah,
Oh, that's true. I have two stretches as well. But so the point is only basic energies recoverable.
yeah.
So, which I only have two basic energies in this deck. So therefore it runs a little dicier. Because I tend to want to get the telepathic psychic early because I do want to get a backup Delmise on the bench, but then I don't have energy that I can get back to hand. So then it makes things a little dicier.
Yeah. And again, telepathic isn't like super. It's like it's okay, but it's not
Yeah.
amazingly strong in the deck or anything like that. I do want to mention a couple things about Prism. I guess one thing about Prism Tower. Prism Tower,
Okay.
because I imagine you didn't really see Prism Tower before this set came out, right? Or did you?
Um, no, not too much. I'm trying to think what it was in a little, but yeah, it wasn't a lot of it. Now it's a common card for multiple decks.
Yeah. And mostly this deck, I will say. But yeah, I've seen it in some other decks. Another deck we'll talk about. And
Yeah.
it's interesting. You discard two, draw one, and you can use this. Obviously, with any stadium, really, you can use it if it's not like if your opponent plays it down. It is a stadium that
Right.
most decks can get some amount of value out of. Just drawing one extra card is nice. So you probably get used to trying to figure out how to use it, when to use it, because there are a lot of times when you have two cards you don't need in your hand. Again, I guess I'll do the random
Yeah.
Xerxes Machination slander, where you oftentimes you have some cards you don't really need, and being able to identify when you can get rid of those cards just for the extra card is good. And I don't know if it's a card you should be using most of the time. I'm not sure the percentage of the time. Probably somewhere between 25 and 50% of the time in a random deck. Um, Mostly depends. Like there's some decks that tend to run lower cards, some decks that tend to run high end cards. But it's definitely something interesting worth mentioning.
Yeah, and part of it probably depends how much judge you're going to think you're going to how much judge you think you'll see, which varies from time to time. It seems like it goes in cycles. If you're going to see more judge, then getting rid of marginal cards is better, right? Because you're going to get random cards back, so you want to get the things that are less likely to help you. So, but if you don't think you guys have judge, just sitting on a bunch of cards in hand isn't a bad thing.
Yeah, but you still get another card as well. So at a
It
Prism
is.
Tower, if the cards are like actually not doing anything.
Let me ask you a question here. Would it be worth considering putting in a Meowth EX in the deck so I could get my supporter turn one going second? So that would probably more likely guarantee the big attack turn one, or is a true prize liability too much of a price to pay for it?
Um, I don't know. I mean, I'm not someone who plays too much Meowth. I'm not gonna lie. It's not a card I usually use too much. I feel like whenever I play it, I start it, and or I like have the supporter or whatever. And I also see I keep seeing my opponents like turn one Meowth, so that's kind of discouraging me. Turn one going
Okay.
first Meowth, which is generally bad unless you're getting Carmen. Could be useful, but generally not good. So regardless, I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't run it. I
Okay.
think the question with the engine though is interesting. I have another thing related to the engine because you were talking about telepathic psychic energy, and I was like, what if there was a psychic engine, right? Because then you can get the
Yep.
basics with telepathic, and that's good. And I found one, and
Okay.
it's
Hit me.
Alakazam. I just like
Because
explode.
we're gonna talk. Well, there's another engine too that sometimes gets played with Alakazam that you've made fun of
The
too. That I'm sure we'll
Dunsparce, right?
discuss.
Or not Dunsparce.
No, no, that we're gonna talk about is a
Oh,
deck,
yeah. Um,
right? Which I assume you're not going to propose that one for this deck,
no.
for the engine.
But you can get it with
Um,
telepathic. Yeah.
yeah, like obviously it's an engine piece that works on play. So if you get your hand disruption with a judge or red card or reset stamp, then the Alakazam
Yeah, unfair
gives
stamp.
you unfair stamp. Thank you. Yeah, it gives you no benefit at that point, whereas the Dunsparce or type of engine does get you benefit later on as well. And then and then what I'm going to say is, if you're putting an Alakazam engine in the deck, you should just play Alakazam if you want to win
Yeah.
games because it's a better deck.
Yeah, no, I was like thinking it through and I was like, yeah, you can attack with Alakazam. It's like, yeah, probably just use Alakazam. I haven't tried this deck. I don't know if I will, but it's funny. Also, four Prism Tower and Alakazam is like kind of funny, like bad funny. I will say though, Gwen, the supporter, is actually interesting. Alakazam. I don't really play Alakazam. I haven't played it certainly since the sets come out, except for maybe once with the hide and sneak deck. But
Yeah.
yeah, no, Gwen gets rid of. When you look at a card that increases your hand size, you can look at like what is Dawn, one of the big cards that increases your hand size. I'm trying to think of something that increases it
Yep.
more, or like Lana's Aid. So that is one card that gets you three cards, so it's a net of two cards. Same thing with Alakazam itself. And then you look at Gwen. Gwen is one card, and then costs two more cards, so minus three, but then you get six cards. So it's actually a plus three card swing there. Yes, you do lose some Pokemon, which can be bad, but I mean, I think it's doable with an Alakazam, specifically like with the Dunsparce there as well. And then you are increasing your hand size a bunch, and it helps your setup. So I think Gwen within Alakazam is interesting. I can't really think of other decks outside of Hide and Sneak where Gwen would be particularly good, but within Alakazam, I think it could be honestly very good.
Yeah, no, Gwen is a nice supporter and something to think about what to put it in. And certainly, if you are someone that likes to play Meowth in decks, then Gwen becomes like a one-of option for a bunch of decks too, right? Because drawing a bunch of cards is just a good thing.
Yes, unless it's a deck that's like a big basic deck, when then Gwen doesn't do
Yeah,
anything because you can't discard stuff.
right, right. But yes, yeah, yeah. I mean, I assume, yeah, people will know whether it makes sense for their deck or not, and you have to have Pokemon that you don't mind discarding, right? That if you're one, some decks are tight for Pokemon in terms of they want to get them all in play. They don't have a lot of excess, so depends. That's a factor too. But yeah, Gwen is a nice supporter, and yeah, nice to give it a little bit of time here at this point because it is good to think about for decks. It's obviously not the feature for any decks, but just a nice card that's part of this set.
Yeah, but I think it's time we move on to the next deck, which I don't know you don't have a
Yeah.
specific one you want to talk about, or do you?
No, I don't. So go
Okay.
ahead.
Yeah, let's talk about the other deck that was hyped up from this set. Definitely a deck that certainly didn't catch my eye initially, but then, and I think you'll probably have a little more to say about it, but that's Mega Excadrill EX. I'll quickly read it out. And it has the attack here. There's two attacks. It says Undermine for two metal. You do 90. You discard two cards from the top of your opponent's deck, which is not an attack you'll use in really unless either one you just have two energies, which isn't very common, or two you're knocking him out anyways. You're hitting like a Dreepy or Dracloak or something, and
Yeah.
then you get to mill two as well. But then you have another attack, which is really actually more like two attacks. You got maximum drilling for three metal, you do 200, but then for five energy, again three metal, then you do 330. So 330 for five there, 200 for three, and you can do 90 for two as well. And it has 340 HP. It is a four retreat cost mega. Technically, you could use heavy baton. Um, it's not something I expect to see in decks. And then I assume your list is the same way. It is a deck that runs Precious Trolley, is built around turn one going second, using
Yeah.
Team Rocket's Petrol, maybe finding it with Transceiver, and then Precious Trolleying for like Matang, or for Beldum, for Drillbur, and then like a Genesect to get your Matangs and your Excadrill.
Yeah. It is playing Precious Trolley as the supporter,
Basically.
and I and it does have the Team Rockets Petrol and the four Team Rockets Transceiver to try and make that happen turn one. And then the list I have is also playing an Ethan's Pichu, which I
Oh yeah.
don't think I'd played before. But it just gets you, does hits for 30, draws you a card that kind of, which isn't a bad thing to sit behind because you're not doing, you're going second, so you can use the supporter. You're setting up, but then you're not attacking for damage that turn. You could use Drillbur, Call for Family as well, but assuming your Precious Trolley, you got the Pokemon to play. The Ethan's Pichu getting a little extra draw, and you have something you don't mind getting knocked out. Actually, is not a bad option.
Yeah, I do want to say, with the board you're looking to establish, I feel like with your
Yeah.
six Pokemon, it's probably, I'll just say the basics would be two Drillburs,
Okay.
three Beldums, and Genesect EX, and then
Hmm.
that's the full board.
Yeah.
So I don't know. To me, it seems a little sketchy to play Ethan's Pichu. I mean, so you
Okay.
played it, right? What would your board look like then?
I would. I probably, let's say, so then I have five on the bench. I probably two Drillburs, two Beldums, and the Genesect, and
Okay,
one
yeah.
Genesect probably is what I have.
Yeah, and then if your opponent knocks out a Beldum, it's like kind of clunky. It's not terrible, and you still do have the Ethan's Pichu, which can attack. It's a cool little card. I haven't really played with it before either, but I see it from time to time. And then this list also has a Mega Skarmory as well. I don't know how good that is. Honestly, I feel like, I mean, the deck, you said this before when we talked about it. It sets up very smoothly.
Yeah, it does set up pretty well. Getting to Okay, so yours plays a Mega Skarmory. I'm just looking at that one there.
Oh yeah,
So
a
okay,
snipe.
so
Yeah.
yeah, Snipes of 220, which is that type of attack is quite nice. So so you have that instead. It is free retreat. Obviously, you might have to start that. You kind of like the Pichu, and then have one less slot for your other
Yeah.
cards you need.
Yeah.
But
Oh,
yeah, that's a
does your deck run a
okay.
Pheasant Dipty EX? Mine does as well.
No, it does not.
Okay. Yeah, maybe that isn't necessarily what you. I mean, it's a good card, but might not be the right fit for this deck either.
Yeah, I mean the thing is, once you get going, like you said, you don't want any support Pokemon, right? The Matang is your support Pokemon, the Genesect, right? You don't have room for them, and you need to have one Drillbur plus your, plus your Mega Extra Drills, what you want. It's 340 HP, so hopefully you're not getting one shot. But obviously it can happen, and well, look, you need five energy. So ultimately, a big question. I'm just looking through the list too to see if there's anything particularly interesting. Uh, Not too much. This does play. I'm playing two copies of Kieran in the deck as well. So,
Okay.
but big question is how often are you going to get the five energies set up quickly enough on the Mega Excadrill? That's the big question, right? If you get that set up, which honestly I found not that as difficult as I thought. I honestly, the times when I did see Dragon Ball, which I haven't seen a lot of, I was up against. I think I was playing Mega Excadrill, and I was just blowing through them with Mega Excadrill, just one shotting them, and like being like, this is just like the greatest thing ever, is how it worked. But from your experience, did you get those five energies on? Most of the time. That's because that's what the deck needs to do.
I think I did. Yeah, I'm trying to think what I was up against. I think I was against some kind of weird stuff. Um, I don't think I needed to be doing 330. I might have been against hide and sneak, in which case that probably didn't go well. But maybe it did, or either no. I think they might just not set up. But theoretically, they could just two shot my X drill, and then they should be able to win. I will say with Dragapult, obviously a very good deck. I think so. I don't really play. I play some Dragapult, but you could play
Hmm.
Moltres, and I think Moltres is pretty good against this deck when showing the Genesect. And then you want to like probably not rush it to Dragapult, right? That seems pretty bad. Because again, you're just gonna get blown up by the my extra drill there. Also, just one. Does your deck run Metagross the single prizer?
Yeah, it's actually you're right. This one has two copies,
Okay,
so
yeah.
that which does can do 300, right?
Yeah.
As long as you discard three mental entries. So a very very nice option there.
Yeah, definitely a cool card. I have seen people. I've played against this deck a good amount. I've seen people like kind of setting up their Matang. I haven't actually seen when you attack with it. I've actually seen people attack with Genesect DX a couple of times. I mean, the deck. So this one runs 15 energies. Does yours also run 15, or does it run something different?
It runs 17 because
Okay.
this is my kind of list, right? Like back with the electric generator decks and stuff. You just needed you needed 15 was like the minimum for those decks, and if you put more in, it was better, and that's how I'm playing this deck too.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Like, so you need a bunch of energies, but like it still sets up pretty well. I will say, so one, if your trolley's prized, that's unfortunate. I think that happened to both of us one game
Yeah.
out of not like that many games. So it is something that can happen, and then you kind of just lose. It's pretty rough. The game, so this one runs a Poffin and an Ultra Ball as well as Pokemon Search. I think I played it in a video and I prized the trolley, the Poffin, and the Ultra Ball. So that was pretty bad. But
Yeah.
if you miss the Toman trolley, that's awkward. I mean, if you miss the trolley, like kind of altogether, that's really bad. And then as the game goes on, like Team Rocket's Petrol, and I want to talk about this because you have access to it a lot. It's
Yeah.
not very good. I don't think as the game goes on, like it doesn't
Well,
search much very useful. Like,
well,
at least in the list, because it has like you don't really need any more Pokemon search, and you obviously don't need energy search. The items this list runs a special red card, which is okay. An energy recycler there, and it runs Jumbo
mhm.
Ice Cream, which those are like okay cards, but you certainly don't need them all the time. And then like what you're looking for would probably be like Gust. Honestly, I wouldn't hate Prime. Obviously, if you're doing Prime Catch, you're not running Trolley, but I guess uh you're not running Petrol either necessarily. But like you then I don't know. I found myself searching for supporters a lot with Petrol, which doesn't feel very good.
No, right? Because obviously you can't play the supporter that
Yeah.
turn. So, yeah, I mean, yeah, the trainers list is sketchy. And if I played it more, I might find it more problematic. Because it's 18 Pokemon, which is a decent amount, I think. 17 energies is obviously on the high side, or 15 for you. So 25 trainers. And yeah, only three Pokemon search card for me too. One Buddy Buddy Pop, one Ultra Ball, one Precious Trolley. So yeah, if you go second, you can't Precious Trolley because it's prized. You're in a world of hurt. You've got the four Team Rockets Petrol and the four Team Rockets Transceiver to make sure you get Precious Trolley. But after that first turn, Precious Trolley isn't that good. Mine, because going with this high energy theme, has two energy recyclers, so I can get that, and I have an air balloon as well with the Precious Trolley that I can get. But after that, the Team Rockets Petrol no good, and of course that also means the Team Rockets Transceiver is no good. It does play like one Gravity Mountain. You could play the Stadium, I guess, that draws you two cards if you
Yeah,
play
my
it for
list
Team
has
Rockets.
that.
So I mean, in which case you might Team Rockets Petrol to get the Stadium to hope to draw two cards, but that's not great. In one sense, would you replace the Team Rockets transceiver with, say, four Pokegear 3.0? Would you hit your Precious Trolley often enough turn one? You might, but you're hit a little less. But maybe it's okay because then your turns, the rest of the game are going to be better because your odds of hitting your Lilies or your boss are going to be greatly increased if you have the Pokegear 3.0 instead of the transceiver.
Yeah, I will say, I mean, the deck still functions more or less okay without supporters or
Yeah.
really doing anything other than what you have on board. It's pretty not interesting, in my opinion, at that point because the deck kind of just plays itself, but
Mhm.
it is pretty
Right.
strong unless you're against a deck that's either one-shotting you or is like doing some weird stuff to you. Which I think as time goes on, as people stop playing the new decks that are kind of mediocre. I don't know. I mean, I definitely was a doubter on this deck, and I'm still a bit of a doubter, but it's been pretty solid so far.
Yeah, it's worked pretty well. And as I'm looking too, it's only you're only playing. I'm only playing two of the Mega Extra Drills. I don't know if your list
Oh,
is the
minus
same.
three, yeah,
Okay, because there's no rod in this deck either.
yeah,
So
or stretcher.
if or stretcher, sorry, yeah. So if one of them's prized, for instance, my one gets knocked out, I'm not attacking with again that game possibly, and that's pretty rough. So but my list does play the two Metagross, so I guess you switch that direction is the way this list is kind of designed. But you know, yeah, it's you have your weak spots. Do you get Precious Trolley? Not a lot of depth in terms of what you do, but it does set up pretty well. And once you're set up, you've got, once you get the Genesect down and you've got the basics you need, you obviously get all your evolutions and you're just getting lots of energy in play. So even if they do some gusting on you, you can deal with it, right? If they gust up your Mega uh, Excadrill without energy, ideally you could power it up at least for the 200 damage, if not the 330. So you're kind of can navigate that is kind of how I would say the deck works.
Yeah. Wait, does your list run Jumbo Ice Cream?
Yeah, 2 copies of that.
Okay.
So
so yeah, you have that, and then like theoretically you can have a Maestro get hit into and then like heal up a little. Also, I feel like you won't have two and play that much, so you probably won't have one on the
no,
bench. You can just kind of not evolve it.
yeah,
And wait. Obviously, if your opponent knocks out your Genesect, and then then you still have your other Mega Extra, so it should be fine.
right, yeah, yeah. You have the one Mega, and you have one probably as the basic, ready for what with access to it with the Genesect. So it's not. Yeah, it works pretty well, honestly. Yeah, it was a deck I questioned. I think this was the first of the new decks that I played. Actually, probably the second. But it
Oh
worked
yeah.
quite well. And yeah, I was hitting for 330 damage pretty quickly most of the time I played the deck, and then that felt really good. As it should, right? If you're doing 330 to turn 2 often, if not always by turn 3, things are going to go pretty well.
Yeah, unless you're getting like knocked out. But it's just like the quote strongest of the decks we're talking about. It might be the best of the decks we're talking about. But anyways, you want to talk about the deck you played first?
Yeah, which is a two cannon deck, and there's a lot of different two cannon builds out there. So let me find my list here. So I played a Terapagos two cannon deck. Because two cannon, if you're not familiar, it's a stage 2. It's got the ability aerial draw. Once during a turn, you can use this ability. You draw a card, which is why, like as you said, you've seen it in like Alakazam decks because it does draw. Although it's a stage 2, so I don't think this another stage 2. I don't know that it's a ton of synergy there because it's not enough draw. But anyway, it can go in a lot of decks, and then it does Feather Rondo does 60 plus 20 more for each bench Pokemon. So you want a lot of Pokemon in play. So you need a Terra because you want to have the stadium to have the really big bench. Most of the I'll let you played it with the more common Terra Pokemon, but I put in Terapagos because it's this to me it's the obvious choice because it's got a similar attack, right? Unifying Beatdown on that does 30 for each bench Pokemon. You can't use it your first turn going second that attack, so you can't do that. But therefore, I have 2 different attacking options, and it is useful, I will say, because the Terapagos' attacking option just because it's a little tankier. So I obviously you want one in play. You need it for the big bench. You get to play the Noctowl engine as well. So it's like a 3/3 Noctowl plus the two cannon, which means you have a great engine with it. And then the Terapagos gives it another attacking option. We're tanky because you want to kind of be thoughtful when you attack with the Terapagos. You want to use it when your opponent's going to not be able to one-shot you. It's nice to have that option because there are decks out there that can't quite get to the 230 number. So there's times it's useful if they're going to blow up the Terapagos, then they just try to attack with a two cannon. They'll boss you up occasionally, and that's okay. Well, the problem is, of course, if you only don't have another play, you lose half your bench. It's a little awkward, but just got to roll with that, and then get to play a Latias EX, which 10 types is many times said is one of the best Pokemon around, which is true. You get to play like a Pheasantipede because you got that bench space is not an issue. You like Pokemon to play. Plays a Tatsugiri, nice little draw, Fan Rotom. So, all Pokemon that are useful, you get to put in a deck like this because you want Pokemon on the bench. So you can go, yeah, is Tatsugiri a good card? Yeah, it is. Usually I can't put it in. I don't have the bench space and all that. But here, you don't worry about things like that. So Tatsugiri, let's go. I can play a card like that, which is fun.
Yeah, it definitely has a lot of different ways to play it. I will say the first way that I was seeing a lot was so you looked at a bunch of different lists for Toucanon, right?
Yeah, I did, and I kind of gravitated towards the list I thought was most my style. Might have tweaked it a little bit, but I said, yeah, the Terapagos list, the way it's built, I like, and it just seems logical to me. And with a deck that one is comfortable with, things just flow better when you're with a deck like that.
Yeah, I completely agree with like all that. Obviously, the idea of building a deck for you, which by the way is something that's just good to do in general,
Yep.
because everyone has their own different like play style. Yes, there are some decks that are like better than others, but if you feel a deck that like you're very comfortable, that's definitely a big deal. But regardless,
Hmm.
what I first saw was pairing it with Arboliva EX. I don't know if you saw that at all.
I did not. Now that one sounds. I look. I'm a bigger Arboliva fan than you are, but I would not put it in this deck. I will say.
Yeah, I have no idea why I kept seeing that. It was like in Japanese lists and some like because I was doing this super early on before there were limitless tournaments, and I have no idea like the idea there. Like obviously you're not playing air zero under depths because you're playing the force of vitality, and then
Oh, right.
the attacks don't have like synergy. I have no idea what's going on there. But regardless, I saw that and I was like, I'm not going to do that. But then there's a different grass Pokemon, which is Teal'c Pontiac. This is not the most common one either, but it was played
No.
some before like the set came out internationally. It's a good Terra. I guess the best basic Terra in the game, letting you draw some cards and can attack. Ultimately, it's not a super good attacker, and the quote draw isn't like really that good. So it's probably not the best option. So I guess I'll move on from that unless you have anything to add there on either of those.
No, I mean, when you say Arboliva, then I'm thinking, oh, you're playing TMS
Yeah.
Ogerpon for the grass energies and stuff. Then I can kind of see it, but no, that's not what they were doing.
Yeah, no, they're two separate things, which is super weird. But regardless, then the other option, which you said was more common, you also mentioned Lutone Solrock with them. I don't know, was that in a lot of lists or not really?
I don't think so. I mean, the Toucannon is a colorless attacker, so you can do it with anything, and you need Pokemon in play. So I know I've seen it. It's not the most. Well, I guess look, you could play it with the Terra you're going to do though, because they both use fighting energy. So I'm not sure how common it is, but certainly it's out there.
Yeah, so that's interesting. Obviously, Toucan is an engine, and so is Noctowl. So I don't know if you need a third engine there. Even
Yeah.
if Toucan's not a great engine, but the Terra is Cornerstone Master Ogerpon EX, which is an Ogerpon, and it just walls. It walls Pokemon with abilities, and its attack isn't super good. Honestly, the Pokemon isn't. I mean, it's like a solid Pokemon or a good
Yeah.
Pokemon, but it's just a Terra that you leave on your bench. You mentioned Terapagos can gust it. It's harder to gust, knock out. The Ogerpon, it is doable, and Terapagos actually has more health, but also it does have two retreat. I don't love playing Latias as another liability, so yeah, it just has two Ogerpon, which is a nice Terra to expand your bench there with Air Zero Underdepth. Then you do have Noctowl as well. I actually do run one Fighting Gong in this list as well. I was like really proud of that addition. I was like, oh yeah, you can do that. This is my own list here, as you'll see in just a second. But I was like, yeah, I want Energy Search. Now I can play Fighting Gong a little bit better. So that was kind of fun. But regardless, yeah, it's certainly fine here. There are different options. Terapagos, as you said, makes sense as an attacker. It's definitely the best of the quote like attackers, but really, Toucannon is pretty strong. Depends on how many Pokemon your opponent's bench, but it is nice.
Right.
And then it is a single pricer, and it's not like super weak either in terms of HP. But then again, you want to get more Pokemon down to your opponent's side of the board. Also, I just realized I play 4 Gwen in this list, which is kind of funny. But I am playing Mandibuzz, one of my favorite cards that I usually don't play, but with the ability to look for prey. Once during your turn, you can use this ability to look at your opponent's hand, and then you can put a basic Pokemon with 70 HP or less there onto their bench, and so it lets you look at their hand and fill up their bench. And it's just a cool little Pokemon here that could be useful within the deck. Also, I realize this list isn't running Brave Bengal. That should probably be here. But regardless, the Toucannon is solid. It's not, I wouldn't say super interesting, but some people definitely like it. I mean, you like it, right?
Yeah, it's a deck I like. It's a single prize. It does good damage. I really enjoyed back in the Inteleon days when it had that engine. So Noctowl has that feel to it. I don't get to play Noctowl that much because I'm not doing Terras that often. But this is a deck that wants the Terra, so I get to draw one from a Toucan or draw a couple because I probably want to, you want to start evolving the Toucans too. No reason not to. Then you got the Noctowl to get some cards with. And then I'm playing Secret Box for the Ace spec. I don't know what you are. Not playing Gwyn, I will say. So,
Yeah.
but I play Crispin because I do have it lets me power up the whoops,
Probably, yeah.
the Terapagos, right? So I have just a two. I have a Darkness and Lightning Energy. It doesn't really matter. I will say for playing it live, if you need to, I guess I should put Psychic in it. Let me attack with the Latias. I probably should
Wait,
do
sorry.
that.
Why do you have darkness?
I don't know,
Did you make the list?
honestly. I think,
Okay, it should
or
be. It should
I
be
should.
the energy is to attack with Trapagos then, right?
Well, I don't know if I want three energies, but I could. I
Well, it
could
doesn't
do that.
matter, right? Like more energy types is better for Crispin.
Yeah, I should. I mean, what I was gonna say, and I should. You're right. I should change it, obviously, because it doesn't matter what they are as long as I have at least two types. Sometimes in live you get challenges to play energies.
Ah,
So with this deck, I could just make it. Might honestly be. I think I'm gonna change it because I needed an energy type too.
okay.
And I was like, it doesn't matter. I'll just slap it in. But you're right. I should put the three energy types for Tropicos, or I could put in the energy for Tatsugiris to do the big
Ah,
50,
yes.
or I could put in the three energies for the psychic to Gladius for 200, right? So
Yeah.
those are all different ways to go because it. But honestly, for the most part, it doesn't matter because you're
Yeah.
attacking with two cannon or Tropicos like 99% of the time.
Yeah, and it's definitely a cool deck. Again, a pretty straightforward deck, kind of like Mega Extra Drill. I'd say even Hide and Seek is somewhat simple, but not turn one. Or I don't know, like the deck building is a little more complicated there. I mean, you can play it lots of different ways. You can play it with Alakazam, you can play it with Dragapult,
Yeah.
you can play it with all sorts of random stuff. You can play it with Marnies. I've seen. I don't think that's very good. I'm not sure exactly how good this card is. I mean, so we haven't really talked about how good these cards are. We talked about how good Hide and Sneak
Hmm.
is. I guess we kind of talked about Mega Extra Drill. I mean, it's pretty solid, I'd say, but how good do
Yeah.
you think Toucannon actually is?
Um, Look, honestly, I found this deck pretty good. Honestly, this is a deck that, especially this build that I like. I like it with yeah, certainly with the Noctowl, which I think you would usually do for a two cannon deck because you want the big deck with the Terra. So all of a sudden, you do have good agency over, right? You're drawing some cards every turn. Plus, you can Noctowl a couple turns. Can't Noctowl every turn because you can't. Well, actually, sometimes you can, especially when your opponent bumps your stadium and then you replay the stadium. I play my Lana's Aid or my Stretcher, and I get back to the Hoot Hoots and the Noctowl, and I'm actually kind of excited about that. So sometimes losing the bench actually is a good thing with the Noctowl engine. I'll say that. But so yeah, I have good agency over things. And I can play around with supporters, right? With what supporters. So I think it's a deck that I think works well. I feel like I have some decent decision making. It's certainly not too crazy complicated, but I do have some decisions. I do have some control over how I want the game to flow. So I think it's pretty good. Now, a deck similar to this, a two cannon with some big basic Terra Pokemon, and obviously you could slap it in other decks, like you said. We've seen it in Alakazam. I've seen it in Dragapult and probably other things as well. I think a stage two Pokemon that just draws you one card isn't the best engine piece. I think that's fair to say. But as far as decks go, it's not as strong a single prize deck as, say, Alakazam. Of course, is it a single prize deck? Because you have to have a Terra in it, right? So that gets its own question of is it or not. But I think it's pretty good, is what I'll say. On a tier list for standard decks, it might be like a B tier deck.
Hmm. Yeah, that seems about right. Um, Maybe like I don't know. I don't love this deck, but yeah, I feel like that's probably fair. And then I guess you did a clean transition as intended there into another
Okay.
amazing draw engine, stage two, drawing you one card. And that's your favorite deck, Mega
Yeah.
Chandelure.
Yeah, I've played this more than I should, I gotta say, and I have two builds here. So, the Mega Chandelure does not draw you a card, but the single prize does. Mega Chandelure EX. This is the new card from the set. I don't know that anything else is new from the set in the
Well, the
deck.
Lampent is, which is worth mentioning.
Yes, even if you want to play the other Chandelier. So the Lampet, which is the stage one, has the attack spreading light, lets you, for one energy, search your deck and put up to three Lampets onto your bench, which means you can have multiple Litwicks down, and then Lampet some directly onto the bench, and then with Rare Candy, you could have more than four Chandeliers into play, right? Especially since we have two different Chandeliers. The Mega Chandelier EX 350 HP, so a tanky Pokemon there, hopefully tanky enough. That's a question there. But it's really here for the ability Binding Flame, which opponent's retreat costs one more. It can attack for 130 plus 50 more for each energy, each the cost energy cost for each to retreat. And so if you stack multiple Chandelures, you can do big damage from it, but you also don't want to be getting knocked out with these megas. So I think it's really a control deck is what it is. So
Yeah.
right? So it's playing the single prize Chandelier we've had, which I haven't played before, but I think now starts to make some sense with this deck. Each player draws a turn, so you're
Right.
forcing your opponent to draw cards, which generally is a bad thing. But because we're trying to deck them out, which means we do get to play the best card in format, that being Xerosic's Machination, of course, the best supporter around. To help with that. And then the different Pokemon options in the deck, like this list, one Badoo just to cause some trouble. It's playing a Maractus, which means your opponent can't retreat, which is good, but then of course it kind of defeats the purpose of the Mega Chandelure. So that's its own issue, which I'm sorting through there. But then a couple good attackers, Comfey, which is a good attacker if you have the Mega Chandelures on the deck, because each player draws 3 cards. So now I'm forcing them to draw 1 or 2 with Chandelure. They're drawing 3 more cards with Comfey's attack. I get something stuck in the active that they can't retreat right away. Get rid of cards with Xerosic's Machinations. I assume even you would say works in this deck.
Yeah.
And then also has like the Elegim in the deck, which lets you move an energy from the active to the bench. So that's another way drawing cards, forcing cards with Chandelure goes a little slower, but then get something stuck. And as they're trying to put energy onto retreat, which of course it's slowed down because you're Mega Chandelure, you're just pushing the energies off onto the bench, just like loading up that Badoo on the bench with like 5 energies as your opponent gets more and more salty as the game goes on.
Yeah. Um, oh, I will say I also run. We were talking a little bit about this before because Maractus will do 20 and eventually knock him out. There is
Yeah.
also, well, it could hit resistance, but there is also there's like some fighting Pokemon that do this, but they are a fighting energy. So I run Prism Energy. I don't actually run the fighting Pokemon, but then I run Cubchute for 1 water. You say the fighting Pokemon can't use attacks next turn, and you do 10 for 1 water there. So that's a pretty nice option. This is a list I took and I made some changes to. I will say I played this deck a little bit as like a control deck, and I never attacked. Well, sorry, I attacked with Comfey once to like win the game, but I never attacked with it well Mega Chandelure like to not win the game, which is interesting. I wasn't even like thinking about that really, but that's an interesting idea there. I will say Xerosix is it's actually it is kind of important here because you're quote trying to deck your opponent out, but you're not actually getting rid of their cards. They're just going into their hand, which one is like kind of bad because they can do whatever they want whenever they want pretty much because
Right.
they have all these cards. And two, two also Chandelure is your draw engine. It's kind of terrible because it's like a stage 2 draw 1 and it also helps your opponent. I mean, kind of hurts
Yes.
them, kind of helps them, but it's not a very good draw for you. And
No,
then
yeah, go ahead.
also, you need to, if your opponent loses determinations, they can just get their hand back into their deck. It's, really easy to, like, obviously, most decks are playing 4 Lilies, a very good card. And yeah, pretty much, by the way, if you're against this deck, that's kind of what you want to do. You want to do it before you get Xerosix. So it's kind of this game of chicken of, you want to wait to play Xerosix to get rid of as many cards as possible. But you also want to do it, obviously, before they Lilies. So that's a little interesting there. And so that's something worth noting. Theoretically, though, if they're just losing so they don't deck out, then it doesn't really matter what you do, assuming you have enough time, which you should. It's not like a tournament setting, so that is, I guess, worth mentioning. Honestly, though, the deck is... I mean, so Mega Chandelure as an attacker is pretty bad.
Yeah.
I complained that he had 12 energies, and like, I run 10, so I suppose I shouldn't be complaining too much. But... Chandelure, the single prizer, does 30 for each card in your opponent's hand for 1 fire. It's like an awkward typing, but ultimately it is definitely an okay attacker in some situations. Unlike the Mega Chandelure. The Mega Chandelure is pretty much never a good attacker. It's kind of expensive. You play Neo Upper in your deck, which is interesting, but it's expensive. It's not that strong, and it's a 3 prizer. So, and stage 2. It's pretty bad.
Yeah. When I first played the deck, I was attacking some with the Mega Chandelure. I stopped attacking with the Mega Chandelure. You just want it on the bench. But honestly, in a lot of ways, I really prefer the single prize Chandelure. I think it's better because I want my opponents to draw cards. And then, I also not that list, but I had my original list was playing the Clefairy, which can go on the deck as well. It has the follow me attack. You get to switch one of your bench Pokemons from the bench to the active. So if you have the Mega Chandelures on the bench, you're slowing your opponent down. you're using the Litwick, and then somewhere along the way, you do want to attack with the Comfy, where you force your opponent to draw 3 cards because that accelerates things a lot. And
Yeah,
I
wait, sorry, you
found,
said using the Litwick? What? That can't be the right
uh,
Pokemon.
no, sorry, with the Comfy.
Okay.
I mean, use yeah, with the Comfy, sorry, to draw 3 cards. So you use the Chandelure, obviously, to draw 1 card. Hopefully, you want a couple of those in play. So if you force them to get two, either they draw three or more with Comfy, they draw one for turn, three, four. So that's 6 cards they're drawing per turn. I mean, we had an opponent that had at least 3 or 4 judges and probably 4 um, of
Lilies.
the Lilies, and they also had a Dunsparce engine. And I was like, I don't know that I can win this, but ultimately I was able to win it because I got with Zerosix and with the Comfy. I was honestly was those games that they like 13 cards in hand. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna hit the Zerosix next turn. They would play Lilies or whatever. It's like, okay, I got to wait through the cycle again, but you'll get there eventually. Right, there is no Pal Pad either in format, so they can only do right. They can only Lilies 4 times. They can only judge 4 times. So eventually you'll get there, and it's having this right mix of attackers, Comfy, Clefairy, Elegum, just to kind of mess with your opponent until you can deck them out, and occasionally attacking like with Chandelure, taking some prizes along the way too.
Yeah, I will say that you could deck out theoretically. So I haven't had that happen,
Yes.
but it is possible. And then also, I do want to mention there's actually a Frostmoth with a similar ability. You can only use it if it's in the active, but then each player draws a card, which is kind of interesting. Oh, this is like kind of intended to be paired with like a Frostlass as well, but you can do that with a Chandelure, which is like kind of cool, I guess. Or you could do it with Alakazam as well, which I've seen a little.
Yeah, I mean, you've got to use things to speed up the draw to win, and this is why a deck. This deck, you at times you say Hand Trimmer is good a card as 0/6 Machinations, but because of that risk for yourself to deck out, this is where 0/6 is clearly the better card, I think, than Hand Trimmer for this deck because you're it's going to take you a bunch of turns to deck out your opponent because I'm still trying. It's an interest. I think it's an interesting deck. I'm not sure it's a very good deck. I lost like 3 or 4 games pretty badly when I finally started to and then I changed the list around and started to get a little bit of a handle on it, but it's still tricky. And I'm not even sure that the deck's not better without Mega Chandelure, just having these other cards and using Maractus often to do things to keep them stuck there with a little bit of gusting, so I don't knock things. You take the EX, you get it down to you do 200 damage on one EX, you gust up another EX, you hit into that 10 times. That's like now that's like 20 turns with a couple Chandelures each turn, so of drawing cards for them. And I can deck them out that way without the Mega Chandelure. I'm not sure what the best way to actually have this deck work, I got to say.
Yeah, but it is interesting, and obviously Mega Chandelure is the like catalyst of you all playing the deck, which is
Yes.
kind of cool. But then I guess we can move on to the next deck. So I have a quick question. Do you want to talk about the fossil deck, or do you like not really care?
No, I don't really care. I'll just say I found the Relicanth deck itself is intriguing, but I think underwhelming. And there's the Thorns Bastion deck, which it's not all that great. So those are my quick thoughts on those.
Yeah, and I will say Thorns is pretty boring. Bastion can be annoying, but it's like a
Yeah.
little weird. It's a little awkward to set up. Obviously, being a fossil, the new stadium is kind of cool. And we actually both won a game with a donk with Relicanth there, and then also Tortuga is interesting, but realistically, your opponent's not getting enough items in the discard for it to be your main attacker. So maybe as a second
Hmm.
attacker might be something. Oh, I have another deck. I forgot. So there's actually two other decks other than the fossils. There's Wailord. I don't know. You want to quickly talk
Yeah.
about that before we move on to the last deck?
Yeah, because honestly, I thought Warlord was going to be complete garbage, and so did you. And you probably might still think it's a bit garbagey, but it works better. Look, it's a 380 HP stage one, so that's super awesome. It's tanky as always, and it's got a very questionable attack. It does falling down for 270, and it falls asleep, and it only takes 5 energies to make that attack happen. So I don't know what else you could want for it in a deck. So it's sketchy. I will say. And then, but that does get to play one of your favorite cards, and this is Cinderace, the one with explosiveness. So if it's in your hand when you start your game, you can, at your starting hand, you can put it face down the active, and that hits for 50, which can be useful there. But also, you search your deck for 3 energies, basic energies, attach them to your bench Pokemon any way you like. So you know, you're getting your Wailmers set up. We also have Misty's Vitality in the deck. You search your deck for up to 4 basic water energies attached to your Pokemon any way you like, so that's good. One of the scary things is you get your Whalmer set up on your first turn, ideally going second. And then hopefully it doesn't get bossed and knocked out. Although most of the time it doesn't happen because your opponent can't make that happen. Usually on their second turn, they don't have things set up to pull it off. But if they do, then it's in a bit of trouble. It gets to play Monkey Dory, which you have to get energy on Monkey Dory to use it, but eventually you will get there. The deck plays bubbly energy because then you're immune and you're covered from special conditions, which you need since you're putting yourself to sleep. And then get to play a couple of my great awesome cards. I get to play a couple of heavy batons. So if retreat cost is exactly 4, you get to move up to 3 energies when you're knocked out. So that's useful there, although it's not the 5 you need, but 3 is a good start. And then get to play. I'm playing 4 Jumbo Ice Cream, heal 80 if you has at least 3 energies attached, which you got to do. So some nice healing there. And then if you can't get special energy in play, you can play Surfing Beach as well to switch from the bench, a water Pokemon from the bench to the active. So some fun pieces, I will say. I thought the deck was pretty fun, and honestly, the deck worked pretty well. I was getting set up most of the time, doing 270 is not a bad number. My opponent was having to 3-shot me most of the time. That was at best and sometimes I could even, for their standpoint, sometimes with the Monkey Dories as well as a Jumbo Ice Cream, it would have to like 4-shot me. So if I'm doing 270, it takes like 3 to 4 hits to knock me out. The deck works pretty well.
Yeah, I will say I didn't find it going that well, but yeah, it's okay, I suppose. Funnily enough, I thought of a secret counter, which is Mega Chandelure, because 1, it one-shots it, and 2, it'll actually turn off Heavy Baton, which is kind of funny, because it increases your retreat cost, so that's the thing. But regardless, yeah, Warlord EX, I keep thinking it's a Mega. It's cool, I suppose. But you know what's cooler than doing stuff is having no cards in your hand, right? So now we're going to talk about, we're a little low on time, unfortunately, but
Yeah.
I imagine you're not so sad about that. Let's say we're talking about, now we're talking about my favorite deck, which is the new Slowbro with Evil, with no cards in hand. And so you want to go over this deck and tell everyone your experiences and stuff.
Well, my experience is the deck just doesn't work. So Slowbro, you have to have no cards in hand. Well, you do 50 for 1 on stage 1, so that's not good. But you do 170 or 210. Sorry, that's a better number. If you don't have any cards in hand, so that's good. 210 for 1 energy on stage 1. I like that. The sequencing is not easy though. It also plays Thievul in it. For 2 colorless energies, if you have no cards in hand, you choose an attack from your opponent's Pokemon. You get to use that for this attack. So it's useful, but you don't know what your opponent's playing. So the Slowbro, I'd say, is the main focus of the deck. And then Silvally in the deck where Call a Buddy, if you don't have any cards in your hand during your turn, you can use the ability to search your deck for support or put it in your hand. So you still have to end up with no cards in hand, though. So if you have no cards in the middle of your turn, and then you get a supporter, and you got to be able to sort it out so that you can get rid of all those cards to attack. Of course, you have to evolve, you have to attach energy, you have to potentially switch if that's what you got to do, and they get down to no cards in hand to make it work out. So it's just a lot. What I'll say, this deck is a lot of decision making, figuring things out, sequencing, and it's complicated. It does you play 4 Ultra Ball because you got to have items to get rid of things. Plays a couple Prism Tower because, again, that's good too. It also plays an Academy at night, so sometimes that's the better stadium. You can put a card from your hand on top of your deck, so just ways to kind of get down to no cards in hand. Also plays, this is, I think, your list here, plays 4 Cassiopeia. That's probably a dicey one. That's one we're trying to set up, I would think, in the middle because you're unreliable there of what you're going to get. But then also gets to play the best supporter in game according to 10 types, and that's Explorer's Guidance. You know, look at the top 6, put 2 in hand, discard the rest. And so that does do a good job of, usually you'll get some cards you need, and you can sequence it so you can discard. But trying to calculate things out so that you get set up for that turn. You have to have at least a basic down so you can hope to attack next turn. Otherwise, you're going to lose because you got to stream attacks, and you got to get to no cards in hand. And you got to do. I'll do that while the clock is ticking. Is a very stressful deck that I find. One misstep over the course of the game, and there's many decisions, and it all kind of falls apart. That was kind of my experience with the deck.
Yes, it is very difficult to play. There's also another build I sent you, and I played some. This is, I guess, what more people are doing, which is pairing with Festival Lead as well. There's a
Yeah.
Swirlix, which you can search um, with what's the card with telepathic psychic energy, and then you have like
Yeah.
Thwackies there to search for stuff, which is nice. Makes the deck smoother as the in the mid game, and late game makes it less smooth in the early game though. Um, and I
Yeah.
don't know, I might like it more without it. What are your thoughts on those different builds?
I did the festival lead with Swirlix first, and yes, I if I could start the Swirlix and the active, and then I used the telepathic psychic to get set up. But honestly, I was taking too many turns where I was attacking with Swirlix, which you put 2 damage counters on your opponent's Pokemon, which I guess is nice to finish something off, but it's not you don't want to use it as a main attacker. So because you have to Swirlix is the active, so you can use your Thwacky. So I would often Swirlix. I could use my Thwacky, but then I would have to get like an air ball. I might have to get a card to switch my Swirlix back to the bench. In which case, I haven't actually advanced it. I can't attack that turn. So it just was very clunky. I found the festival lead a little bit too tricky. More practice, I'm sure I would have gotten better with it. The build without Festival Lead, I think for me, is it was a little more straightforward to play.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'd say as well. I will say Cassiopeia is like super good in the deck, assuming you don't get like stuck in your hand at the beginning of the game. If that happens, that's unfortunate, but hopefully that
Well,
doesn't
yeah,
happen.
yeah. When I would play the deck, I would get like 2 Cassiopeias, and I wouldn't get any Ultra Balls, so I had no way to, and no like Prism Tower. So I had like 3 or 4 turns where I was just like staring at a couple Cassiopeias and some other cards I couldn't play, and thinking bad thoughts. I will say.
Yeah. I will say you kind of get a chance to attack with Silver Ally or Slowbro. Technically, it's not amazing, but it can be the thing you need to win
Yeah.
the game. And then also the deck with Cassiopeia though, if you have no cards, if you use Silver Ally, Cassiopeia is like amazing. Then you can play it, and then you use your ability to search deck for 2 cards. It does use your supporter, but it's like super good there. And
Hmm.
then I mean, the deck's like super hard to play. I will say Thievul is probably one of the coolest Pokemon in the game. I was like thinking it would be, and is, because you have so many attack options. You like click it, and then you see like 10 attack options or something pop up because it's all your opponent's Pokemon. Admittedly, most of them are like 20 or 40 damage, but it's still fun to see. It's an okay attacker, I'd say. So it is 2 colorless. So it's well, the
Yeah.
energy split here is in the one without Wacky, which I think I'm liking a little more. It runs 4 Ignition, and then it runs 2 Telepathic, 2 Basic, Psychic, and then it runs 3 Counter
Yeah.
Gain as well there. Um, Maybe should swap out a Counter Gain for a Brave Bangle. I'm not showing that one, but regardless, you are able to, go ahead and attack with both. I found it easy to attack with Slowbro. Also, Telepathic is nice. Overall, there's like a lot of things to break down the deck. We're certainly not breaking them down now, but the deck is super cool. It's definitely difficult to play. I will say Explorer's Guidance is like super good in the deck. Someone's like, you should cut the Explorer's Guidance. I'm like no, cutting Explorer's Guidance is like it's super good. It helps you set up in the early game. It helps you thin your hand down in the mid to late game. It can lead to getting rid of some stuff that you need, which is a
Yeah.
problem, more so than even if you like were doing other support. But I mean, like it's still you need to draw, and it's definitely I don't know. I would say Explorer's Guidance is good. Would you agree in this deck?
Yeah, I mean, obviously you might get rid of your boss's orders, which you play one copy. I think, yeah, for what I would say is this deck needs Explorer's Guidance, just like the Mega Chandelure deck needs the Zero 06 Machinations, right?
Don't say it like that.
Well, not everyone's a big fan. Look, I know you're not a fan of Zero 06 Machinations, but it works in Chandelure, right?
Yeah, but
You
Zero Six
need it in
doesn't
the
help
deck.
you set like if you're looking at your opening hand, you're like, oh, I got Zero Six. That's not like what you want. Zero Six is good to
No,
like turn like 8 or 10 or something, um,
n-
in
it
that
serves a
deck.
different function. It serves a different function, but these are cards that supporters, neither supporter, Zero 06 or Explorer's Guidance should go in like every deck, but
Zero
it
Six or
definitely,
Zero Six shouldn't go in most decks. Explorer's Guidance can go in a bunch of decks and be okay. Um,
yeah.
I definitely okay. I got I got random Zero Six. I did lose, I will say, but it's because the deck was really bad. I was playing. It was like the Relicanth 2 good deck. But regardless,
Okay.
my opponent just like played a random Zero Six. Random Zero Six is like not good. I had like 5 cards in hand. I got a couple of cards, didn't really change like anything, and then
Yeah.
I lost, but it didn't change anything. And my point at that point wasn't really set up. Um, but like random, like if you're looking at a dead hand and you have Explorer's Guidance, it's sometimes I like because what the other options are like the search supporters, right? Like Brox and stuff like that.
Yeah. Um, yeah, I mean, for this deck, yeah, no, I mean, I get it. No, no, so Force of Guidance is good for this deck.
No, in other
You're
decks
getting,
though, like in if you're
well,
playing just a random deck and you have obviously you have your four lilies. This deck doesn't play four lilies because of the way it's built, but most decks would.
right.
And then after that, what supporter would you be looking to have in your hand?
I mean, I think like depending on the deck, Dawn is really good. I know you don't like it. Obviously, the one that gets you a couple basics is that Brock Scout?
Yeah,
Is that
Brock
Brock?
Scouting.
I think those are actually pretty good supporters. I would put those ahead of Explorer's Guidance. We also have the supporter that gets you energies. Is there one or more than one now that gets you
There's
energy?
there's Hellbound and there's also Colossus Tenacity.
Okay, so energy, getting stadiums, which stadiums are a big thing for a number of decks. So depending on the deck, I think there's a number of different supporters that you could want before you'd want Explorer's
Yeah, I will
Guidance.
say none of those can get you like supporters. Or like they can get you certain things, but they can't get you like there's things that they can't get. So technically, Explorers Guidance can get you
Yeah.
like different things, like streaming supporters and different things. So I don't know. I obviously I'm a big fan of post rotation here, but yeah.
Yeah, no, it's good. Obviously, the difference is Explorer's Guide. The other ones are are limited what they can get you, but they can search the deck for it.
Yeah.
This you're drawing and choosing. So that that's the trade off.
Yeah, I will say though, with those cards, pretty much like the best ones are the Pokemon search ones. If you're
Yeah.
searching for Pokemon, then at that point you can probably like with if it's like a single prizer and you got like Ultra Balls and Pokepads, then you have a bunch of outs to it off of Explorer's Guidance, so you'll still probably get it. Um, so like if those supporters were searching like more different things that were hard to search and also very good, at that point I'd be like, yeah, those are like really like way better. And it's not like I think Explorer's Guidance is broken or anything. I think it's okay, but it is a card that I think is a little well, still underrated, or maybe the
Yeah,
other
I
cards are
mean, for
overrated. I don't know.
that could be. I mean, part of it is with this deck, you've got to have cards that you can get rid of, right? Like you can't have too many supporters because even with Explorer's Guidance, if you have to get a supporter to hand. You can't play it down. You're playing two Buddy Buddy Poffin. You don't want to overload Buddy Buddy Poffin because again, if once your bench is full, you can't play it. So you can only Ultra Ball away so many cards. So you've got to be careful. You need cards like Pal Pad and such that you can kind of or Pokepad, sorry, and such that you can always play. Or you have a bunch of tools here, and you can always like slap a tool on a
Yeah,
Pokemon again. So
yeah.
so you need cards. You need more cards that you can always play.
Yes, I will also say, but you still need supports like setup as well. But yeah, so you have
Yes.
with Boy Boy Puffin, you can usually play it. Again, you can't play if you have a full bench, so try not to fill up your bench. You want to be able to get yourself into situations where you can play lots of different cards.
Hmm.
Specifically, the main thing there would be looking at getting basics down. Because then you can play the evolutions. If you don't have a Slowpoke in play and you draw a Slowpoke, you can't play that. If you don't have a Nico down, you can't play the Thievul. If you don't have the type null down, you can't play Sylve Ally. So even getting a second type null when you really don't need a second Sylve Ally is essentially something you want to do to thin and to prepare yourself for future turns. When you look at even Nice Search as well, a very good card. You need to be able to get cards
Hmm.
to recover and cards you can play when you recover them. So the
Yep.
sequencing is super complicated. It's super fun. I'm actually gonna set this as my active deck to play a bit later, but it's a really interesting deck, but a super hard deck to play.
Yeah. Let me ask you a quick question. I'm a Pokegear 3.0 fan, so I when I played it, getting the Silvally evolved wasn't as consistent as I would like. I would say. And so if I have Silvally, I don't want Pokegear 3.0. But if I can't get that evolved, which I found to be real more often, I could see value in Pokegear 3.0 because first off, I can always play it for one thing, so it's a card I can always just use and dump if I need to. But also does then help me get the supporter I want, assuming I can't get Silvally down.
Yeah, I mean, so obviously I'm not the biggest Pokegear fan, but I can see the value in the deck. Um, in terms of Silvally, or in terms of Pokegear, I think it's okay. Um, and you can just like fail it and stuff. So it's not a bad card in the deck. But in terms of like the upside, I mean, Sylvalai, you'll be using Sylvalai for like Cassiopeia a bunch throughout the course of the game and just keeping you in the
Yeah.
game. You really need to be getting lots of cards. And so that's kind of how you do it. Um, and Pokegear isn't doing that, right? You need to get I mean, that's another card you're playing, right? You with Sylvalai, the idea would be hopefully you take a knockout. You take a knockout once every turn or every other turn, something like that, and then you use your top deck because the cards you're looking for. We were talking about this before. You need the basic, the stage one, and the energy is kind of what you're looking for. Pretty much every single turn. That's how single price decks work. You need the Pokemon and the
Yeah.
energy. So with Cassiopeia, you're getting two of those cards, but then you presumably top deck one or get one off like the prizes or something. So that'll happen a lot of the time. Maybe you can find some extra wiggle room at other points in the game as well and just set up your board in the early game. And then Type Null, or I mean Sylvalai, will keep you streaming there. And again, that's off your top deck. Versus Pokegear, if you're playing that, that would be off your top deck in the mid game. In the early game, I could see Pokegear being good. But I think the deck's kind of sketchy. You need to, in some ways, in order to actually win with the deck, you need to assume you're making it out of the early game. Um, Otherwise, you're just going to be behind and not doing anything and just kind of lose.
I mean, what I found with the deck, besides it being awkward, difficult, is I couldn't get both Slowbro and Sylvalai evolved quickly. So I've been prioritizing Slowbro. Maybe I need to prioritize Sylvalai and just let a Nickit or two get like blown up early, so that but so I can get having Slowpoke on the bench with a Sylvalai in already evolved might be a better situation than trying to take an early knockout with Slowbro, but not having Sylvalai where I start to fail, after that. I'm
Uh,
not sure.
I'd probably prioritize the Slowbro still.
Okay.
Or an attacker. The Thievel is also a solid attacker. It's a little clunky to get set up, but it's not like horribly clunky, especially if your down counting is active. It's very doable. I've mostly been attacking with Slowbro. It obviously there are times when like it's not very good if you're against like say Anzoric EX that's pretty bad. You're two-shotting it. They're one-shotting you, potentially also pressuring your bench at the same time.
Mm.
And so that's going to be really awkward. I don't actually, now that I think about it, I don't know if Thievul would be very good either. But there are definitely times when stuff gets pretty awkward, but Thievul can do some cool stuff. And most of the time it's just like, okay.
Yeah, I mean, Thievel's obviously very much more situational. Slowbro is reliable in terms of what it does. The question is it good enough to get the game? But sometimes Thievel, like against Enzorak, you're doing nothing with the Thievel.
Well, no, you can copy the Pokemon that copy, because it's any of their Pokemon, it's not their active. Or it could be active. But you
Oh,
can,
it's not. Well, doesn't it copy your bench then?
no, you
Not your
don't
opponent's
copy their
bench?
Enzora, you copy one of their bench Pokemon, like their like Zekrom or something.
Okay, it's not trying to copy your bench.
No. Thievul no. Thievul copies any of your opponent's Pokemon,
Okay.
so it's going to copy their.
Okay. You copy from the bench. It's not just the active. You're
Yeah.
right. Okay. Sorry.
So I guess you could actually copy their and Zekrom, then you could bring Bangle, and then like one shot them is an option. I don't know. It's definitely like there's some sketchy stuff. Also, this deck doesn't run a Lily's Clefairy EX. Maybe it should. I haven't gotten that far yet. It could be good, but it's
Yeah.
definitely scary. Overall, there's some cool stuff in the deck, though. It's a deck you should try. A deck that's super hard to play. But you probably need to play 10 games to get at an okay level to play it, to be honest. But it is really fun for some people.
Yeah, and I'm gonna say give the Toucannon a go. It's a pretty good deck as well. I think it's a simpler deck, but I do think it gives some good decision making there. And I think if it's your style deck, give the Wailord deck a shot. If you think it's appealing but sounds like it'll never work, it actually will work more than I think than it should. And you may have some fun with it.
Yeah, overall, I'd say the set's been super cool so far. We definitely haven't explored all the stuff from it. I don't think this stuff's like been explored by other people necessarily either. Obviously, people have been playing some new stuff, but I think there's tons of interesting stuff to do with this set. I hope this stuff does get explored. Like I hope Slowbo doesn't just get like lost to time because people are talking more about the other decks. But even I will say again, hide and seek. There are things I talked about earlier as well. If you're struggling with it, kind of do some of the changes I recommended. To get the deck working a little smoother in the early game. But regardless, I think the set is super cool. I think you agree, right?
Yeah, there's a lot of new decks, and I've seen like Dragapult probably less than 5% of the time right now. So that's a nice change too.
Yeah, but again, make sure you check out our channel, Uncommon Fossil and 10 Types, for more content on this set and other Pokemon TCG stuff coming up as well. Make sure you subscribe to our channels and like, and you can listen to and watch the videos there, the podcast, and then you can also listen to the podcast on podcasting platforms if you want as well. Though if you comment, make sure you do that on YouTube. But we hope you all enjoyed, and as always, we're excited to see you in the next episode.
Take care.